Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you joined us on this Life Leaders podcast. In this edition, I'm really excited to introduce to you one of my longtime friends by the name of Fred Teague. Fred Teague lives in Russellville, Arkansas, and he is actually the director of an organization there called the Russ Buss. For years, we served in the same church together, and Fred just happened upon some circumstances and noticed some people in our community. And this became a pivotal moment in his life, and his whole focus of his life shifted toward remedying a situation in some of the most disadvantaged people in our city. And I wanted you to get to meet him, wanted him to share some of his story, how they're working with certain groups of people within the community, and now what God is directing him to in his own next steps. So welcome, Fred. We're so glad that you joined us on the podcast today. We're glad to see you.
Thank you. It's awesome to be with you.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and then this organization called the Russ Buss and how this whole thing came about.
You know, when you just said pivotal, and I'm probably almost 11 years into this thing right now, and you don't realize how pivotal it really was, because my life completely shifted. You know, it did. So my wife and I have been in this community for 28 years. We've been married 31 years. We've been here in this community for 28 years. Called the Life Center Journey family our home for 26 years. So we've been going to the same, been the same part of the same church family for 26 years. And probably about 11 and a half years ago, a little over, we've owned 3 businesses over that time, and just served our community through service-oriented businesses. And about a little under 11 years ago, I noticed a picture on social media that was in Villa, which where I'm from, and it just blew my mind. I was like, that's not possible that, in the year 2012, in one of the greatest nations in the world and one of the greatest communities in the world, that we literally have a homeless camp. It just blew my mind. I couldn't get around it. And so I went on this mission to search out and find the origin of this picture, and brought me to a young lady named Ashley Francis. She's a single mom. And so I just, through circumstances, got to contact her, and I said, what is this all about? What's going on? How can this even be? And she told me, yeah, there's a homeless population here. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. So through having conversations and everything, the organization that I'm now director of and have been helped found back then, started taking care of the homeless population. So we, at first, I'll be honest with you, I didn't sign up to be a director. That is, I did not sign up to be a director. I did not sign up to do what I've done the last 11 and a half years, because it's loving on people is what I do best. Directing is not my thing, but I say that, but now I'm going to be running for mayor here in a minute. So I don't know. We'll just kind of skip ahead there for a minute, but no, you like to say, it's one of those things. I love being with people and I love loving on them. So I signed up to literally go hang out with guys and people at Denny's, the truck stop, and just buy me a Diet Coke and them a soda, and just share life with them. And then all of a sudden this thing began to grow, and there was really the pivotal moment in the organization was a guy named Joe Nathan. I was out late one night and I was checking, back then we were such a small organization. We would literally check the bathrooms and parks and, check behind stores and, just in different places where a homeless person would be. Or if we saw you walking downtown or anywhere with a backpack, we would pull up to you and say, do you have shelter? And if you were homeless, you knew what we were talking about. If you weren't homeless, if you were walking to work, you looked at us like we were a bunch of idiots. And that happened a lot too. But late this one night, it was nasty and it was raining, and I went to our city park to check our bathrooms there, and no one was in the bathroom. But I looked over behind what's our community center, and there's a gentleman sitting over there. And so it was about 11:30 that night, and I walked over to him and said, "Hey man, what's going on?" And I met this young man named Joe Nathan, and he had been on the streets for about 60 days. Had the clothes that he had on his back. Didn't even have socks because his socks had literally rotted off his feet. He didn't even have socks. And so it was at 11:30 at night, and I was like, man, there's not a lot I can do right now. I said, let's connect in the morning, because back then we didn't have a budget. Back then we had what was called mailbox money. When somebody sent a $50 check, you were like, whoa, this is good. And so whatever came in the mailbox, after we got a mailbox, we didn't have one at first, and so I connected with Joe Nathan the next morning, and we went into a wooded area and cleared out some briars and stuff. Went and bought him a tent, got him some blankets donated, and just set him up in this patch of woods close to town. And it was just started, just got him a safe place to stay. Went to a resale shop. This is one of those early God moments. Joe had a weird size, man. I'm talking like a 38 or 40 inch waist with like a 30-inch inseam. Just weird size. So we go into Marvin. I'm like, man, this is gonna be a crapshoot. There's 3 pair of jeans, and they're all his size. And I'm like, wow, what? That was just like, It's like one of those God moments. It's like, there's only 3 pair of men's jeans in this whole store, and they're his size. And it's one of those confirmations early on that, man, God's like, hey, I've got this. And so we bought him some clothes, and then just shortly after that, we were able to get him into a job. A local person was able to hire him, and then shortly after that, we partnered up with an organization called Help Network, and they were running a federal grants program called the Emergency Solutions Grant that allows people to get their deposit and first few months rent paid. And, somewhere between 60 and 90 days, we've taken this young man from the city park, where I back up just a minute, because he would normally stay in the city park bathroom, but it was just too wet and nasty that night, because everything was so moist. And I asked him, I said, do you sleep on the floor? And he's like, no, I've never been that low. I said, I've never slept on the floor. I'll sit on the toilet and lean up against the wall to sleep. And I was like, man, that was an eye opener for me too. And, but he was over here, behind the community center. And so go back forward again, 60 to 90 days, we had taken this guy from being homeless, and got him into a job and got him into an apartment. And it was just like, this light bulb just went on, like, oh my gosh. And since then, I don't even know the hundreds of times, that we've duplicated that by providing a safe camp, connecting them with employment, and then, connecting them with resources to get into housing. And so that, from that very first time of Joe Nathan, I can remember going with him and signing the lease and seeing him get the keys, and just all of the amazing things that were just all wrapped up in that. And there's a lot of details that I'm leaving out in between that took place in that 60 to 90 days, but it was amazing. And so we just we began to realize, hey, listen, there's something here. And so then we went from 1 camp to 2 to 3. Now we have 9 individual safe camps. And so what that looks like is just where it's for an individual or family unit to live at in that camp. So it doesn't mean you have like 9 huge homeless camps, but we have 9 individual camps, but they're literally right in the middle of town. They're within walking distance to like 90 different places of employment. They're within walking distance to every resource you could ever imagine. And so we've grown to that. And, and then over the process of the years, now we have, we grew into, and I can't remember, it's 5 or 6 years ago. Well, no, God, it's longer than that. It's 6 or 7 years ago, because it was 3 years into Russ Buss. I felt like we were missing things. I felt like we need to do better. How do you go out and do a poll, and do you ask everybody? And we're like, no, they're not going to tell you what you're doing wrong. I mean, they're just not going to. They're not going to be. And so I sat down with the team, and I said, there's only one way we can find out, and that's for one of us to try to live homeless and figure out what we're missing. And so January 1st of that year, I left my house, and I took I think 2 changes of clothes with me, and that was all I took. I took 2 pair of underwear, 2 pair of socks, 2 pair of pants, and 2 shirts, and I took a coat. And that's what I took a backpack to carry it in. But what we would basically equip someone with, because we would, if you come in and you don't have anything, we're going to take you to Walmart or somewhere, and we're going to get you a couple changes of clothes and get you what you need. And so I went and lived in one of our camps that January. I have no idea what it actually is like to be homeless. There's no way you could ever know that until you're actually put in that situation. So, but to the best of my ability, I lived in that environment. I would get up in the morning and leave my camp, and I would walk about 1.75 miles to get a meal. I would walk to the mission. If it was sleeting, if it was raining, if it was below freezing, which it was a lot, I would walk to get a meal. Or if you chose not to do that, then you skipped a meal. Or I got to eat what was donated. So I would eat Pop-Tarts, or I would eat a can of chili cold, or I would eat a can of soup cold, anything that you could pop top, or peanut butter with some crackers, whatever was donated and anybody else had access to is what I had the ability to eat. And so but I would get, over that 30-day period, and back then we only had 1 shower a week. We people to truck stops to get showers. It cost us $12 a shower. And so we would take people to the truck stops. And so back then we got 1 shower a week. You did get baby wipes, so you could wipe yourself down and you could keep yourself clean. But we learned a lot. We learned in that 30 days, we learned so much. And out of that came our life skills building. I came out of that after 30 days. I was like, oh my God, we're missing so much. There's so much we needed to do better. And the thing was, they were not telling us that we were missing those. They were just appreciative of everything we were giving. They were not griping. They weren't saying, I need this or I need that. They were just thankful for what they had. And so I came out and we formed a little team and said, hey, we got to do better. And a lot of things came out of it. Now we have a facility on site with the camps that has a 24-hour shower and laundry. So people can get as many loads of laundry as they need a week. One of those things that I learned through my stay in that little box, and I say boxes, there's so much I have, there's just so much. And John, you know these things, but we have like 32 square foot boxes that people live in. So they're literally what we call them as micro cabins, but you lay a sheet of plywood down and you build a wall around it, and that's what you get to stay in. It's warm in the winter because we can provide heat in the winter, but it's hot in the summer. It's 100 plus right now here. And so it's hot, but it's dry, if you can, if it rains. But so about a week into my being in the box, my box started smelling. And I realized, hey, listen, we were giving them 1 load of laundry a week back then, but we weren't washing their bed linens. We weren't allowing them the time or the money or the resources to wash their bed linens. And so that was one of those things that came out of that. So we've got 24-hour laundry, 24-hour shower. They can take as many showers as they want, because a great example is a young man that works for a lawn mowing company. Every day he's nasty. He needs a shower every day. But if you only get 1 a week, how are you supposed to do that? I mean, baby wipes do some, but they don't do a lot. So, but now you can have a shower before, after, anything you need. So those are amazing. Another thing I discovered in that 30 days is because we have a working homeless population. I'll get to that in a little bit, but our people work. So they work and get themselves out of this situation, because we mainly work on transitioning people. And so we have people that will deliver food it's probably 4 or 5 nights a week. People will deliver food to the camps. And so if you're working from 3 to 11 and the team comes at 5 o'clock and delivers your food, back then they would leave it on your door handle. The coyotes had already eaten your food, but they don't do it real neatly. They just spread it out all over the place, and they spread trash all over your camp. So not only is your camp trash, but they ate your food, and you got penalized because you were working. And so it was just, I was like, man, we got to change that. And so now there's a refrigerator in our laundry room that food can get delivered to for your specific camp. And when you get off work, whenever that is, you can put it in the microwave. We have a Keurig for our people, because I was going into my local, we have PDQs. You guys probably have come and go, 7-Eleven, whatever. And I was going in there every morning and getting my Diet Mountain Dew, and everybody was getting coffee. And I was like, man, why can't my people have coffee? They go to work every day. Why can't they have coffee? So we get donated K-cups, and people that live in our homeless camps get to have coffee before they go to work or at night, whatever they want. And so just bringing some dignity. And so we've been very blessed to have our camps in the centrally located area. We were able to, another thing that was a huge dignity thing to me. Unfortunately, when you have camps in the woods, when it rains, it is muddy. And so if you go to work and it come back, it's raining, you're traipsing through, just mud and muck. And so you got to get in this little box. It's cold or it's hot or it's nasty. And your feet are wet, and that's not good. And so we were able to, several years ago, we were able to build raised walkways. Literally, we spent over $8,000 and built raised walkways into every one of our camps and put a little porch outside every one of them that they can actually sit their chair there. And because it is their home, it may only be 32 square feet, but it's literally their home. We also have 7 apartments where we have homeless families with children. We've been able to buy 7 apartments where we have homeless families with children. So we're able to allow them to have a place to stay, get a job, work themselves in transition into homes. And but we, that way we don't have little children in homeless camps or on the streets. We've had multiple babies literally born into our organization where a mom will come in and then we'll just, we had a lady, and I know you're on social media, but if you get a chance, read probably 2 days ago, we got a letter from a lady that moved out of our program, and you can associate with it because you're from Houston, but she came to us probably 8.5 years ago for the first time off the streets of Dallas. She was a teenager, left Teen Challenge, came to us, was not ready at that time, but came back probably about 1.5 years ago, a little over, and has now she is clean. She's over 2 years clean. She has her son. She is a peer-to-peer specialist with Arisa Health. It's just really just a super amazing success story of God's restoration, because that's what God does. He restores. And but she just sent us a letter, and I was like, oh man, it's just bawling, because it's just amazing what God lets you do to be part of what He's doing. But on another note, what we did kind of a little bit more explanation about the Russ Buss, and I know we'll get on some other stuff here in a minute, but we have we're transitional. We focus on transition, so we've got a lot of rules. You know what I'm saying? You sign a contract when you come into our program. You're required to get a job if you're able to. If you're disabled, you can't get a job. We also have a 40% savings program. You have to save 40% of everything you make. It's mandatory, or we get to part ways, because you have to. You've got to save that money, because it's to teach you how to pay bills also, because when you're saving 40%, it's almost like paying your utilities and your rent. So you get shell shock or sticker shock, whatever you want to call it, when you move into your own place. We do have a no drug alcohol policy. We do drug tests. Now, we don't kick you out on the first test, but if you continually fail drug tests, then we do have to part ways. But we're looking to try to send you to different rehabs, or we're trying to find a way to say yes and help you. But so there's a lot. I could go on and on about that program, but what it was probably 6 or 7 years ago, we sold the company that I was running when we started Russ Buss, just so that I could I needed to spend more time with Russ Buss, and so I needed to find a job that I could stay closer to the operations of that. So we sold a very profitable company for us, and it was a good company, and then was actually able to come on staff at the church that you and I both have pastored at, been associate pastors at. So, so it's, that's kind of one of the part of that transition. You can talk now. I'm sorry. I just,
no, that's phenomenal. So, I wanted to ask you, just kind of going back. So first of all, just kind of walk me through, what do you guys see as percentage of people that you find in this circumstance that are willing to engage with what you guys are doing? I know that not everybody really will do the things that you guys are requiring, which are the things that are going to they're going to have to do in order to be able to remain stable. So what does that look like as far as percentage of people that you guys encounter and the ones that will cooperate with what you're asking?
I would say the majority of them. Now, there's two type of in our demographic. There's two type of homeless people. You have what's called situationally homeless or chronically homeless. Chronically homeless is a person. I've got a friend that's been down by the railroad tracks for 11 years. He has no desire to go anywhere else, and there's nothing wrong with him. That was a hard thing for me to understand, to let him live the way he wants to live. I just assumed everybody wanted to sit on a warm toilet when they got up in the middle of the night. I think, so situationally homeless, if you run into a situationally homeless, someone that's made a bad decision, someone that's had something bad happen to them, if you have someone that just, sometimes no matter how good you are, bad things happen, and so sometimes we just can't string together enough good decisions, and it causes us to be homeless. So those people are willing to do what it takes, and they basically, what I explain to people is, we have a toolbox. They're broke down in life, and we come alongside and give them the tools to help get them out of that situation. Now, if you're chronically homeless, and one thing we've learned in the last 10 and a half years, or 11 and a half, I don't remember what it is, or 10 and a half, if I can't transition you, and if you come to me situationally, and if I can't transition you within 6 months, I run a real risk of you transitioning from situationally homeless to chronically homeless.
Wow.
There's a window there that we've discovered. And so you can get to a point where you're comfortable in that atmosphere, and it doesn't matter if you go back there to what some sense of normalcy. So we really try to focus on getting somebody out of that situation within 180 days. Doesn't always happen. Like, I've got a friend that lives, several friends that live in the woods, and they have for years, and they just don't have to, but they choose to.
Yeah.
It's just they've got comfortable in that environment, and so they just, it's a life choice, and at that point you can't do anything. You can't make them want to change or do something different. So I think so we have the majority of the people we encounter are willing to do what we do. Now, they're willing to start. Let's put it there. They're willing to start. And at some point, some people may be willing. They may just say, "Listen, I can't do this. I'm not cut out for this." Because there's structure, but there's a lot of grace too. There's a lot of grace. I tell our whole team, we lead with grace. We lead with grace. That's one of the most important things. So
that's so powerful. So I don't think that you said that. I was listening and I may have missed it. What do you guys experience as far as the people that are willing to participate with you? What do you guys experience as far as success rate on that people that will, with whatever period of time, I know that may differ based on their circumstances, but on the backside of that, what do you guys experience as far as people moving from that situational homelessness into some type of permanent situation that's better?
I tell people there's two ways to leave Russ Buss. That's either moving into your own home or, parting ways because of not obeying the rules. And for the first 5.5 years, we were completely volunteer, meaning no one got paid. And in that 6th year, we hired our first person, Nikki Stone, and then 3 years ago we hired our second person. So there were no who's did this, who did that. Now we're seeing more and more record keeping. We don't look necessarily on failures or not, but because the thing is, maybe you may come through and get kicked out one time, but maybe it's the next time or the next time after that or next time after that. A good example, gosh, Lisa Ford. It was her 5th time through rehab before she got clean, and so she's 9 years clean, probably restored to her daughters, and just doing an amazing job, managing for a major restaurant chain, and just amazing. So just phenomenal what she's doing. And so the thing is, never give up on them. You just adjust the resources that you give them. So on the first time through, the resources may be a lot more. The second time through, the resources may diminish a little bit. But then there's every situation is individual, and it's hard. I can remember there's a girl that came through probably 9 years ago, and I can remember the night that the sheriff's department brought her to me, and I remember standing at the door of this roach-infested motel. I got her a room, and it's funny because she had got kicked out of Teen Challenge, and I know but she was just she'll tell you horror stories about Teen Challenge of the whole 12 hours she was there. But she was there for 12 hours, and so it's just hilarious. She was a preacher's kid from up in Missouri, but I hope she doesn't watch this. But if she does, she knows I love her. So I can remember standing at the door, and I'd got her a pizza, and I was standing there, and you're seeing, there's roaches on the walls and everything, but this is one of those times that I really know that God spoke to. And there's not a lot of those that I will just put that hole in the ground and say, I'm not moving from this, because this is where he spoke. And he said, if you will believe in this one, we can win this one. And that's what he said. If you believe in this one, we can win this one.
Wow.
And I still believe in 9 years later. I'm still believing. She is not perfect. She has got a long way to go, but she's better than I've ever had her in 9 years. You know what I'm saying? Just started another job today, but she actually works for us and helps clean our facility. But we're still actively involved in her life. And it's one of those that I'll never, because that was one of those things that I drove in the ground and said, it will always be there. I will never stop believing no matter what. And you see things that happen. You see things that happen in their lives. And so, and I've told her that story. I said, I'll never stop believing in you, because I know what God said is we'll win the battle. But I just have to, I just can't stop believing. And so, but yeah, she's much better than she's ever been. She might not say that. She does have some up and down issues, but so I don't know. There's those people that you really get connected to, and there's literally thousands. And when I say thousands, it's not an exaggeration. There are thousands of people that have come through. And then we lost a young man this year who was one of those. He was in, I hate to categorize him, but he was probably in my top 3 to 5 of people that have ever come through, and he got hit by a train trying to cross a train track, and we lost him and had to do his funeral. And so, there's so many people that come through that you love, and you see, you cry with them, you yell at them, you wrestle with them, but you see God doing things in their life. And I firmly believe without a doubt this young man, I will see him again, because I know he just never could beat his demons this side. And, I think he's restored now. But, so I don't know. There's just, success rate is, I would say, I would say 70%+. We believe in people. When everyone else is given up, when everyone is given up and doesn't believe in them anymore, that's where we step in. There can be people, their family, that just like, I can't do it anymore. I'm like, okay, well, it's our turn.
Wow.
Let us do it. We've got a guy that 70-something years old who lives in an apartment and sleeps in a tent in his living room because he's more comfortable that way. But he lives in an apartment. It's just like, there's just so many things that we don't understand. And but yeah, I don't know. It's just I've said for years, I think I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I get to ride shotgun with God. And we got to come down, and see you guys. Me and one of our guys that had been homeless got to come down, and when Harvey hit, you know what I'm saying, and we were able to come down, and that was one of those fun things that we got to do. So I got to come down and got to see you. Or no, did we get to see you? You were just your wife. I can't remember if you were there that day. I don't even remember. So.
I think we just said briefly hello. It was
briefly hello, because we're all doing all we could do, man.
We were. It was fast.
All we could do. So
I wanted to ask you systemically. So one of the things that I notice in a lot of places is that there's broken systems, not just broken people. And I don't know if you've encountered that. If you have, I was wanting to ask you this question: is what do you see as some of the, I don't know whether it's governmental systems, charitable systems, or just systems with people or whatever socially that continue to perpetuate this cycle that you guys have to either intervene in, or things that you would champion to say, hey, if we could engage at some level, whether it's church level, governmental level, it doesn't really matter, but a civic level, if we could make some modifications and tweaks here in the system or completely revolutionize it, I don't know, we could either help people not fall into situational homeless, or we could accelerate getting people out of it. What are some of the roadblocks and challenges you guys have faced in those systems?
Well, I think you're talking what I say going upstream, because we're treating the problem when we're passing out resources. We're treating the problem. Okay, in my office right now, I'll spend $50,000 a month in back rent that we'll pay for back rent. For people. So that's not necessarily helping the situation. It's helping the landlord, which is a good thing. But so I think going upstream, and one of the things that we discovered, to me, there's a lot in that, because there's a difference. Poor is a state of mind, and broke is a state of finances. Okay, so broke can be remedied pretty easy. If we can just give you some money and maybe a few tools, then we can remedy broke. Let me give you a good example. A couple came through years ago, lived in a tent, homeless with us, ended up, paying in a weekly motel, $250 a week to stay in a motel, which is crazy. And then we had some rental apartments open, and we were able to move them into those rental apartments. And they were paying by the week, but they were paying less than the motel. And so they were griping because they were broke all the time. And I was like, okay, you're not broke. They're like, yes, we won't have any money. And I'm like, I know how much money you make. I know what you pay. I said, let's go down to Hardee's, and I'm going to buy you a burger, and we're going to sit here. And so I got my notebook out. And we wrote down all their stuff. What do you spend on gas? What do you spend on food? How much Budweiser are you drinking? How many cigarettes are you smoking? Every dollar has to have a name. If I'm budgeting, every dollar has to have a name. And so by the end of that, when every dollar had a name, they had about $1,500 a month left over that was not accounted for. And they were like, wow, they had no idea. And so the light bulb went on in their world. That first year, they bought 2 cars. They paid for 2 cars that were new to them, because they found this new money that had always been there. And then the next, after we got those, I said, what are we going to do now? And they're like, I don't know. I said, how about let's buy a house. Let's save to buy a house. And so they started saving money to buy a house. And unfortunately, we had to part ways because of a domestic violence situation. But whenever we got a call on that night when there was a disturbance, the police officer called me and told me, he said, hey, Fred, these people are dealing drugs. And I'm like, no, they're not. I said, I know these people. They're not dealing drugs. He said, Fred, they are. And I'm like, why do you say? I said, have you found drugs? He's like, no, but there's $8,000 in this apartment. And I'm like, okay, there's not a problem. They're saving for a house. And he was like, oh, okay, just kind of blew him away that somebody living in this little apartment's got $8,000 saved, And so, but now they have gone on, and I ran into them a while back, and they were at a gas station, and they had been approved to buy a house. And so they were, so broke was able to be fixed with a little bit of information and some tools. Now, poor is a state of mind. Sometimes it takes us generations, or it takes us a lot longer to overcome that poverty mentality or that poor state of mind. And so that, kind of along the lines of that, one thing I understood years ago is if we just pass out resources, then that's what we're doing. We're fixing an immediate problem. So that's what we have, a life skills building, and we have a life skills director. I'm not talking about a job skills person, but I'm talking about a life skills person. And so we're trying to invest knowledge and information into someone to help them become successful. That looks different for every person. There's different things that we try to teach people, walking through the American healthcare system so that you can, get your healthcare, just different things and how to navigate those things and how to look for an apartment, and, different, not job skills, but just navigating life. And so, yes, we have to, I feel like we don't do that enough. I think in the nonprofit world, there's so many needs to be met that it's just, the grant system is you've got to spend the money or you don't get it. If you don't spend all the money, it doesn't come next year. And so, yes, and I think also there's a big misconception is everything in the nonprofit world, everything we do is geared towards all of our programs and everything, and our mindsets are geared toward the middle class mindset. And so we don't understand what a poverty mindset is and a poor mindset. So like time is a great example. In time to a middle class person and time to a person in poverty with a poverty mindset is not the same. Yes, our watches look the same, but for years maybe they didn't have a watch or they didn't have the phones, which we have phones now. But if you think about it, a lot of people that are in poverty, they show up to work late. Their kids get to school late. Everything they do, we get frustrated because we set an appointment at 1:15 and they show up at 3:00. So you've got to rethink things because we're dealing with a different group of people. And so there's a lot of, you have to lead with grace and have some understanding. Now, some people will manipulate, but there's also a difference between manipulation and then just a generational situation that person doesn't understand.
That makes sense. Wow. There's a lot in that. Well, this has been incredible just to hear what you guys have been doing, what you're seeing. I know a lot of people are going to want to connect with you. I want to do that right at the end, but I want to ask you this last question. So I just heard recently that you've made a decision that you want to get involved in government. And so you're going to be running for mayor of the city there. So just give me a little bit of like what led to that? What prompted you to do that? I'm sure it has to do with all of the areas that you've been leading in the city, but I want people to hear from you. Like, why is it now important for somebody that's been working in this area to say, man, I think I want to get involved in this? So what's on your mind for that and what's prompting that?
Let me say one thing before I do get to that, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
One thing that we've done here is in the last 18 to 24 months, we've actually purchased the church that you and I have pastored in. We've purchased 8 acres and 34,000 square foot, and we've literally built what's called one roof, which we've actually have 9 or 8 nonprofits operating under this one roof facility, and we still have room for growth. So we have homeless organization. We have an organization that pays rental assistance, helps homeless people get into housing. It also helps pay utilities. We have United Way. Everyone knows what United Way is. We have Polk County Foster Care Coalition. We have what's called 100 Families, which really works to reduce recidivism. And we also have an organization called River Valley Food for Kids that services our food for our kids that are in need in our school district. They're putting out about 20,000 meals a week right now in the summer.
Wow. From,
it doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people down there, but from a place called Twin Rivers to Hector. So they're putting in like 20,000 meals a week, which is incredible. And then we just opened up literally a brand new, we took everything to the ground and built a brand new 8,000 square foot medical clinic that is free of charge, which has free dental, free vision, free medical, and free pharmaceutical for those in our community that don't have insurance. And so all of that's happening under one roof. And so just that is kind of all just continual systematic growth. And all these other organizations it's like a strip mall for nonprofits, but it was made possible by that birth of Russ. Russ Buss was the one that bought the building. But
wow.
Going back to what you just asked me, because I did want to put that in there, but long story short, I don't believe in jobs. I believe in kingdom assignments. And that is it. Kingdom assignments. We all have kingdom assignments. I believe we're all created for the same purpose, and that is to make our world better and impact the small part of our world. I can't necessarily impact Houston. I can't impact Little Rock, Conway, or Fort Smith, but I can impact my circle of influence in Russellville, Polk County, Yale County. And so I think it has been on the table for a long time. A lot of people have mentioned that I should run for mayor. and it's never felt right. It's never really taken root. For the first time, it started taking root. Plans and visions started coming in my mind, and I was like, it kind of took me off guard, and I wrestled with God. To be honest with you, I was like, and is this really what you want me to do? Because if he asked me, I want to do it. And so we wrestled for a little bit, and we talked, and after I realized he was right, I felt like, and so I came to some other people and said, hey, listen, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I have wrestled with God, and will you pray with me? And that team of people felt the same thing, that it was a kingdom assignment. It was time for that God wanted me to move into this next step and do the things that I need to do. And now, when you look back over the last 28 years, my wife and I have served in this community. We've served. At the core of everything I do is I serve people. That's what I do best, is I serve. And so we've had 3 service-oriented businesses that have been successful. We've been able to God's given us so many relationships and acquaintances from every walk of life, from the millionaires to the person that lives in a tent. I call people friends everywhere in between. And so, especially in the last 10.5 years, I've been able to build a network of relationships and influence between, nonprofits, churches, governmental agencies, educational agencies, private individuals and businesses. And we've been able to just build this thing that God can use in that office of mayor and help bring. We need some unity and some healing in our community. We've had some division. We've always had division. It's been a little bit worse here lately, but we're never going to agree on 100% of everything. You can't do that. That's not healthy. But we can sure find some core things that we believe in. It's kind of like the core beliefs. These are the things that we got to believe, and that we feel like are going to be beneficial to our city. And let's work together on those. I may not agree with you over here, and you may not agree with me over here, but right here, let's find these things that are going to be core, and they're going to be essential to our growth. They're going to be essential to our health of our community, and let's work these. And then we can work these peripheral things later, but let's kind of concentrate on what's at hand and what we can do. So I feel like that's it. And I think we're at a place, the nonprofits and everything, where we're healthier than we've ever been. And I think God's given me a release to move into that next kingdom assignment.
That's incredible. So I wanted to just put this out there. So if someone wants to connect with the Russ Buss or any service organization that you guys have, we'll put those labels and those links on this video when we post it as well. But how can they get in touch with you on Facebook or social media, email, websites? What are those touch points where they can get connected with those organizations and or your campaign if they're interested in that?
On the Russ Buss, that is the Russ Buss, which is 2 S's and one in Russ and one in Bus. And then the number 1 and then Roof, ROOF, is the page on it. And then also you have Journey Church in Russellville, Arkansas. You can connect with us there. So all of this would not be possible without Journey gifting all of the equity that they had. Journey gifted us over $2 million worth of equity in the building to make it happen, which is mind-blowing that a church would be willing to gift everything to see kingdom-minded things happen. Instead of trying to build bigger, they're like, hey, let's go smaller so that the kingdom can progress. And so if you are local, or if you're from Houston, you feel like, or anywhere you're from, you want to give to my mayoral campaign, that is Fred Teague for mayor. I believe I think that's also on Facebook. But you can, like I say, you can give to that if you want. I'm not bashful on that. I'll take your support. I don't know. It's just, it's good. It's exciting to be able to do this and be able to just be in that seat as God continues to orchestrate and direct my path. And hopefully I'll keep listening to him and obeying him. And I don't know where, you would ask me 12 years ago if I was going to run a homeless organization, I would like, man, why would I want to do anything with homeless people? So, it's just I've just figured out that God just says it and do it, and then everything's good. So
that's powerful. Well, this has been really fun. It's been great to be on Zoom and just be able to catch up. We've known each other for so long. We don't talk that much. Your time is incredibly precious and valuable. And we've both been busy doing our own thing, but this has been enlightening and inspiring. And so for those of you that are watching and joining us on the podcast, I hope you'll visit the links that are in associated with this video to connect with this organization, make a donation, support them in whatever way that you can, and just connect. And even just if you want to make a donation to his campaign, that's terrific. Or if you just want to let him know we're praying for you and what you've got going on, that will be incredible as well. So, Fred, thanks so much for being with us. And for all of you guys that are watching, let's be life leaders that make an impact and culture wherever we are. Let's make a difference for the kingdom. God bless you guys. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you soon.